The wine glass sat untouched in front of me, a 2015 Cabernet that probably cost more than my last textbook. My father's laugh boomed across our mahogany dining table, the same cruel sound that had echoed through my childhood whenever I dared to dream too big. "A surgeon? Come now, Sarah, that's a bit much for a girl, isn't it? I'm Sarah Newton, and this was the night I learned my medical school fund had been emptied to pay for my sister's wedding. 10 years later, I still remember how the silverware clinked against bone china while my future shattered. Daddy's right, Paige simpered, twisting her new engagement ring. Medical school is so intense and expensive. You'd be much happier teaching like we talked about. She reached for my hand. I pulled away. We didn't talk about anything, I said. You and Mum talked about me while I was studying for my MCATs. Mum adjusted her pearl necklace, a nervous tell I'd watched for years. Sarah, dear, your sister's wedding is a once-in-a-lifetime event, and James's family, well, we need to make the right impression. My education fund, I said slowly, is going to ice sculptures and dove releases. Now! Dad's voice carried that warning tone, the one that meant I was being difficult. We've already put down deposits. Paige's future in-laws are very particular about these things. You understand. Actually, I don't. I stood up, my chair scraping against hardwood. I don't understand how my entire future is worth less than Paige's one day of playing princess. Sarah, Mum gasped, that's not fair to your sister. Fair? I laughed, and it sounded foreign even to me. I've maintained a 4.0 GPA, I've volunteered at 3 hospitals, I've done everything right, everything you asked, and you're just... What? Giving away my chance? You're being dramatic, Dad said, cutting into his steak. There are plenty of other careers. Teaching, like Paige suggested. Nursing, maybe. Something more suitable. Suitable for what? Being female? For someone who needs to think about family eventually, he replied. These surgeon dreams, they're unrealistic. You'd never have time for children, for a proper home life. Paige touched my arm. I know it seems unfair now, but you'll thank us later. When you have your own family, you'll understand why. I jerked away. Stop talking about my future like you own it. That's enough! Dad's fist hit the table. Wine glasses trembled. You're acting like a child. We're your parents. We know what's best. I looked at each of them. Dad, red-faced and certain. Mum, carefully examining her plate. Paige, wearing concerned sister like it was another designer accessory. You know what's funny? I said, reaching for my purse. You're right, I am being dramatic, because this isn't a discussion about my future. I stood up. This is the last time you'll ever see me. Don't be ridiculous, Mom said. Sit down and finish your dinner. I'm done, I said, with dinner, with this family, with all of it. Dad's chair scraped back. If you walk out that door, young lady. You'll what? Take away my education fund? I smiled, and it felt like breaking glass. Too late. I walked to the door, my heels clicking against hardwood like a countdown. Behind me, Paige called out, Sarah, please don't ruin my engagement dinner. I turned back one last time. You know what the difference is between us, Paige. You'll spend your wedding day becoming someone's wife. I'll spend the rest of my life becoming myself. The door slammed behind me with satisfying finality. Outside, the summer air felt electric against my skin. My hands were shaking, but my mind was clear, crystal clear. I pulled out my phone and dialed the one person who'd always believed in me. Ren, it's me. Remember how you said your couch was always available if I needed it? Sarah, what happened? They gave away my medical school fund to pay for Paige's wedding. Silence crackled over the line. Then, get over here, now. We're planning your revenge. Revenge? Yeah, we're going to make you so successful they choke on it. I looked back at the house, at the warm light spilling from windows that no longer felt like home. Through the dining room window I could see them, still eating, still talking, probably already dismissing my exit as another dramatic Sarah moment. You know what? I said, starting my car. They think being a surgeon is too much for a girl. Fine. I'll become the kind of surgeon they have to beg for. I pulled away from the curb, leaving behind an untouched glass of wine and a family that would regret every word, every laugh, every dismissal. They just didn't know it yet. "You're running on fumes, Sarah." I glanced up from the medical journal I was reviewing, my eyes burning from another 18-hour shift. Nathan stood in the doorway of the on-call room, 2 cups of coffee in hand. "No," I said, accepting one. "I'm running on rage. There's a difference." 10 years had passed since that dinner. 10 years of sleeping on Wren's couch, working 3 jobs between classes, and fighting my way through a system that seemed designed to break me. But here I was, preparing for another groundbreaking surgery, while my colleagues whispered about the miracle worker in vascular. "Your next patient's here," Nathan said, sitting beside me. "Another impossible case. Why do they always send those to you?" I smiled. "Because I'm the best, and because I never say no." The memory hit me then. My first year of med school, working the night shift at a 24-hour diner. I'd fallen asleep during morning lectures more times than I could count, but I never missed a single one. "Order up!" I'd call, balancing plates while highlighting textbook passages tucked behind the counter. The regulars learned not to bother me during study time. The manager wasn't as understanding. "This is a restaurant, not a library," he'd said, tossing my books in the break room. I quit that night, found a better job bartending. At least there I could study during slow hours. Nathan's voice pulled me back. "The surgical board's talking about you again. That last procedure you developed, they're calling it revolutionary." "Good." I stood up, straightening my scrubs. "Maybe they'll finally send that plaque to the right address." Another flash, last year's International Surgical Forum. I presented my findings on microvascular reconstruction, techniques no one else had dared to try. Standing ovation, awards, recognition. They'd mailed everything to my parents' house, my old address still listed in some database. I never asked if they'd opened it, never called to find out if they'd even noticed their daughter's name making medical history. "Dr. Newton?" An intern appeared at the door. "The patient's prepped and ready." In the OR, everything else fell away. This was where I belonged, where no one questioned if it was too much for a girl. The scalpel didn't care about gender, neither did the lives I saved. "Clamp," I said, and the instrument appeared in my hand like magic. This was my element, my revenge. Every successful surgery was another middle finger to everyone who said I couldn't. 4 hours later, I was writing up my notes when my phone buzzed. A voicemail from Paige. I nearly deleted it without listening. "Sarah, it's me. I know it's been years, but it's Mum. Please call me back. Please, we need you." I played it again. There was something in her voice, real fear, not the manufactured drama she usually traded in. "You okay?" Nathan appeared beside me, concern etched on his face. We'd dated briefly 2 years ago, before he'd grown tired of competing with my walls. Now we were just colleagues who carried too much history. My sister called, something about my mother. "Are you going to call back?" I stared at the phone. "They haven't needed me for 10 years. Why start now?" "Maybe because you're the best?" He touched my shoulder briefly. "The Sarah Newton who revolutionized vascular surgery, the one who just saved another impossible case." I laughed bitterly. "You mean the one they thought should be a teacher?" "No," he said quietly. "The one who proved them wrong." My pager beeped. Another consultation, another life hanging in the balance, another chance to be too much. "Whatever it is," I told Nathan, "they can find another doctor. I'm busy saving people who didn't throw away my future." But as I walked away, Paige's voice echoed in my head. The fear, the desperation. Part of me, the part that still remembered being a daughter, wanted to call back. The bigger part remembered working as a night security guard during my residency, drinking gas station coffee to stay awake during rounds. Remembered Wren bringing me groceries when I couldn't afford food. Remembered every sacrifice, every humiliation, every moment of proving myself while my family enjoyed Paige's perfect wedding. My phone buzzed again. Another voicemail. "Sarah, please. The doctor's here. They say you're the only one who might be able to help. Mum's dying. Please, we need you. We were wrong. We were so wrong." I deleted the message and walked into my next consultation, but my hands were shaking, and it wasn't from the coffee. They needed me now. Fine. But this time, I'd be the one setting the terms. This time, I'd be too much on purpose. I pulled out my phone and texted Paige back. "Send me the medical files, all of them, then we'll talk." The medical files arrived at 3 a.m. I sat in my office, scrolling through images that made my stomach clench. Mum's condition was rare, a complex vascular malformation that was slowly strangling her brain. The kind of case that ended up in medical journals, usually with the word fatal attached. My phone rang. Paige again. "Have you looked at them?" Her voice was raw, like she'd been crying. "I'm looking now." I kept my voice clinical, detached. "Who's tried operating?" 3 surgeons. They all said the same thing. "It's too risky." Then one of them mentioned your name, said you'd pioneered techniques for cases like this. I closed my eyes, remembering Dad's words. Too much for a girl. Now here they were, desperate for exactly what they'd tried to prevent me from becoming. "Sarah," Paige's voice cracked, "are you still there?" "The surgeons were right," I said. "It's extremely high risk. The success rate—" "Please," she interrupted, "just come see her, even if you decide not to operate. She asks for you, you know. When the pain medication makes her confused, she calls for you." My laugh was bitter. "Funny. She wasn't calling for me when you all emptied my future into your wedding fund." Silence stretched between us. Then, "I tried to give it back. After the wedding, I wanted to write you a check, but Dad wouldn't let me have your address." "Save it," I said. "I don't need your guilt money now." "Then what do you need?" Her voice hardened. "Tell me what it would take to get you here. Name your price." I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. Full medical authority, legal documentation giving me complete control over her care. No interference from Dad, from you, from anyone. I make all the decisions. "Done," she said immediately. "Whatever you want." "I mean it, Paige. One word from Dad about what's suitable for a woman doctor, one attempt to control the situation, and I'm gone." "I'll handle Dad. Just please come." I hung up without answering and called Wren. "They're desperate," I told her. "Mum's dying, and apparently I'm their last hope." "Calm as a bitch," Wren said. "Are you going?" "I don't know. Should I?" "Wrong question. Can you live with yourself if you don't?" The memory surfaced unbidden. Me at 16, reading medical textbooks under my covers with a flashlight. Dad had caught me once. "What are you doing?" he demanded. "Learning about the cardiovascular system," I'd said proudly, showing him the diagram. He'd closed the book. "This isn't for you, Sarah. Focus on something more appropriate." Now, looking at Mum's scans, I could name every vessel, every potential complication. I was exactly what he'd tried to prevent me from becoming. "I'll need a lawyer," I told Wren. "Someone to draft ironclad paperwork about medical authority." "Already on it," she said. "I'll email you the documents in an hour. Make them suffer a little before you sign." Ray, the hospital administrator, was surprisingly supportive when I requested emergency leave. "Take whatever time you need," she said, "but Sarah, don't let this break you. Some wounds don't heal better just because you get to be the one holding the knife." I booked a flight for the next morning. As I packed my bag, Nathan appeared in my doorway. "I heard," he said simply. "Want company? I could assist if you decide to operate." "Why would you do that?" He shrugged. "Because you're the best surgeon I know, and because 10 years ago someone told you this was too much for a girl. I want to watch you prove them wrong." I zipped my bag closed. "I haven't decided if I'm operating." "Yes, you have," he said quietly. "You decided the moment you saw those scans, because you're not just angry anymore, Sarah. You're exactly what they were afraid you'd become, someone who saves lives whether they deserve it or not." My phone buzzed with Wren's email. Legal documents requiring signatures from my entire family, giving me complete control. "Fine," I told Nathan. "Book your ticket. But remember, this isn't about healing family wounds. This is about showing them exactly what they tried to throw away." He nodded. "I know. Just remember something. The best revenge isn't making them sorry. It's making them irrelevant. I shouldered my bag, thinking of Mum's scans, of Dad's dismissal, of Paige's wedding, of every moment that had fueled me to this point. They're already irrelevant, I said. Now they just need to know it. I walked out of my office toward a confrontation 10 years in the making. They wanted the daughter they'd thrown away? Fine. But they were getting the surgeon instead. The hospital waiting room smelled like artificial lavender and old regrets. Dad stood as I entered, his hair greyer than I remembered, his shoulders stooped with age and worry. Paige sat beside him, perfectly manicured fingers twisting a tissue. "Sarah," he said, stepping forward, "thank God you—" I held up my hand. "The paperwork first." "Now really," he started, that familiar tone of authority creeping in. "We should discuss—" "No." I pulled out the documents Wren had prepared. "You sign these or I walk. Your choice." Paige grabbed the papers before Dad could object. "Where do we sign?" I watched them read through the terms. Full medical authority, complete decision-making power, no interference in my medical judgments. Dad's face darkened with each paragraph. "This is ridiculous," he sputtered. "We're her family. You can't expect us to—" "Actually, I can." I crossed my arms. "You wanted the best surgeon available? This is how you get her, or should I call a cab back to the airport?" Paige thrust a pen at him. "Sign it, Dad, please." His hand shook as he scrawled his signature. 10 years ago he would have thrown the papers in my face. Amazing what desperation could do. Nathan appeared beside me, his presence steady and grounding. "Dr. Newton, they're ready for your initial consultation." Dad's head snapped up. "Who's this?" "Dr. Fox," Nathan said smoothly. "I'll be assisting Dr. Newton during the procedure." "Procedure?" Dad stood straighter. "Now wait just a minute. We haven't agreed to any—" "Actually," I cut in, holding up the signed papers, "you just did. Nathan, let's examine the patient." Mom lay unconscious in the ICU, monitors beeping steadily. She looked small against the white sheets, her elegant facade stripped away by illness. I checked her vitals, reviewed her charts, my professional mask firmly in place. "Sarah?" Her eyes fluttered open. "Is it really you?" "It's me." I kept my voice neutral. "I need to examine you." "I knew you'd come," she whispered. "I told him you'd become important." "I need you to follow my finger with your eyes," I said, ignoring the comment. This wasn't a reunion. This was a medical examination. After completing my assessment, I stepped into the hallway where my family waited. Wren had arrived, looking fierce in her lawyer suit. "The surgery has a 28% success rate," I announced clinically. "Any slight error could be fatal. Without it, she has maybe 2 weeks." 28%? Dad's voice cracked. "But you're supposed to be the best." "I am the best," I said coldly. "That's why other surgeons quoted you 0%. Now, as her medical proxy, I need to inform you of my decision." Paige gripped Dad's arm. "Which is?" "I'll operate tomorrow morning. If she survives, she'll need extensive rehabilitation. If she doesn't—" I met Dad's eyes. "Well, at least you'll know a girl tried her best." He flinched. Paige started crying. Nathan touched my elbow, a silent reminder to stay professional. "Dr. Fox will review the consent forms with you," I continued. "I have preparations to make." "Sarah, wait," Dad called as I turned to leave. I was wrong. About you. About everything." I looked back at him, this man who had shaped my life by trying to limit it. "Yes," I said simply. "You were." In the doctor's lounge, Wren found me staring at my mother's scans. "You wanted them to grovel," she said quietly. "Just remember, if you twist them too far, they'll break, and so might you." "I'm not twisting anything," I replied. "I'm doing my job, the one they said I couldn't handle." Later that night, I returned to Mum's room. The night shift nurses had dimmed the lights, and the monitors cast a soft glow over her sleeping face. "Did you ever miss me?" I whispered to her unconscious form. Or just the image of what I was supposed to be? She stirred slightly but didn't wake. I checked her latest readings, making notes for tomorrow's surgery. One wrong move, one slight tremor, and she would die under my hands. Nathan appeared in the doorway. "Pre-op team is ready for briefing." I nodded, taking one last look at my mother. 10 years ago, she had sat silently while they stole my dreams. Tomorrow, her life would literally be in my hands. "Coming," I said, straightening my white coat. "Let's make sure everyone knows exactly what we're dealing with." As I walked out, I heard Mom murmur in her sleep, "I'm sorry, Sarah. Too little, too late. Tomorrow wasn't about forgiveness. It was about proving, once and for all, that I had become exactly what they feared, someone they needed more than I needed them." "I want to save her," I told Nathan as we reviewed the surgical plan. "But I want them to feel afraid first. Is that monstrous?" We were alone in the conference room, surrounded by brain scans and surgical diagrams. Dawn was still hours away. "It's human," he said, not looking up from his notes. "But it's not you." "You don't know who I am anymore." "I know you've never lost a patient because of pride." He finally met my eyes. "Don't make your mother the first." A knock interrupted us. Paige stood in the doorway looking haunted. "Can we talk?" Nathan gathered his papers. "I'll check on the OR prep." Once he left, Paige collapsed into a chair. She smelled like expensive perfume and whiskey. "Remember when we were kids? How I used to steal your books?" "To hide them from Dad," I said. "Not exactly sisterly protection." "No." She pulled out a flask, took a swig. "I was jealous. You were so sure about everything, about who you wanted to be. Until you let them take it away. They were going to take it anyway." She slammed the flask down. Dad had already decided the wedding fund, that was Mum's idea, to at least make it look like the money went somewhere instead of him just refusing. I felt the floor shift under me. "What?" "Mum tried to change his mind after the wedding. She even offered to sell her jewellery collection to help pay for your school." Paige laughed bitterly. "Dad said he'd rather burn the money than waste it on female surgical fantasies." "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I'm drunk enough to be honest, and because—" She wiped her eyes. "I didn't want that wedding. Not like that. Not with your future paying for it." "But you took it anyway." "I did, because I was weak, because it was easier to be what they wanted." She looked at me with bloodshot eyes. "You know what the worst part is? Every time you make headlines for some amazing surgery, Dad says it must be exaggerated, that no daughter of his could be that important." My pager beeped. A pre-op notification. In 6 hours I'd have my mother's life in my hands. "I should go," I said, standing. "Sarah," Paige grabbed my arm, "I know it doesn't fix anything, but I'm going to pay you back, every cent, with interest." "Keep your money," I said. I didn't become a surgeon for the paycheck. I headed to my temporary office, but found myself walking to Mum's room instead. A nurse was checking her vitals. "Dr. Newton," she said, "there's something you should see. We found this in her personal effects." She handed me an envelope. Inside was a letter, dated 3 days ago. "If you're reading this, Sarah, I didn't know how else to say it." My hands shook as I read Mum's careful handwriting. "I failed you. Not just about school, about everything. I was raised to believe silence was a wife's duty. Your father's word was law in our house, just like my father's word was law in my childhood home. But watching you fight, watching you succeed despite us, you showed me what strength really looks like. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm telling you I was wrong. You weren't too much. We were too small." The letter continued, but my vision blurred. Wren's words echoed in my head. "Closure doesn't mean they say sorry. It means you get to stop asking why." Nathan found me there, still holding the letter. "Everything okay?" "No," I said honestly, "but it will be, after tomorrow." "About tomorrow." He hesitated. "The surgical plan you proposed, it's brilliant, dangerous but brilliant. No one else would dare try it." "Are you saying you won't assist?" I'm saying I've never seen anything like it, or anyone like you. He touched my shoulder. Get some rest. Tomorrow we make history. I folded the letter carefully. Or we kill my mother. No, he said firmly. Tomorrow you save her. Not because she deserves it, but because that's who you are. The best surgeon I know. The one who takes impossible cases and makes them possible. I looked at my mother's sleeping form, then at the letter, then at my steady surgeon's hands. Okay, I said, but first I need to review one more thing. The approach to the tertiary vessels? No. I pulled out my phone. I need to see if that jewellery collection she mentioned is still worth anything, because if I save her, she's going to help me start a scholarship fund for girls with surgical fantasies. Nathan smiled. Now that's the kind of revenge I can assist with. I tucked the letter away and turned to the medical charts. Tomorrow would change everything, one way or another, and this time I was the one holding the power to reshape our family's future. The letter wasn't an apology, I told Wren, as we sat in the hospital cafeteria at 4 a.m. Surgery was scheduled for 7. She regrets her weakness, not her silence. Closure doesn't mean they say sorry, Wren replied, pushing a coffee toward me. It means you get to stop asking why. I'm not looking for closure. I'm looking for... I trailed off, unable to name what I wanted. Validation? Justice? A reason to finally let go of all that rage that's been fueling you? The coffee burned my tongue. 3 hours until I had to be perfect. Until my mother's life depended on the career they tried to prevent. Nathan burst into the cafeteria. Sarah, we have a problem. I followed him to the pre-op room where Dad was arguing with a nurse. Demand a second opinion. These risk factors... What's going on? I asked, my voice cutting through his protests. He's trying to stop the surgery, the nurse said, demanding we wait for another surgeon. I pulled out the signed papers. This document gives me full medical authority. Your opinion is noted and irrelevant. She's my wife. Dad's face was red. You can't just... Actually, I can, and if you continue interfering with my patient's care, I'll have security remove you from the hospital. Patient? He stepped closer. She's your mother. No, I said coldly. Right now, she's a critical case requiring specialised vascular intervention, and you're disrupting her care team's preparation. Paige appeared, pulling at Dad's arm. Come on, you're making it worse. And making it worse? He yanked free. Your sister is about to perform experimental surgery on your mother, and I'm making it worse? Experimental, I laughed. I pioneered this technique 3 years ago. It's been successfully replicated in 4 countries. Would you like to see my published papers, the international awards, or are those still too much for a girl? The silence that followed was deafening. Dad seemed to deflate, aging years in seconds. I can't lose her, he whispered. For a moment, just a moment, I felt sorry for him. Then I remembered every dream he'd crushed, every dismissal, every time he'd made me feel small. Then it's fortunate, I said, that I'm exactly what you tried to prevent me from becoming. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to prep for surgery. In the scrub room, Nathan watched me methodically clean my hands. You okay? Ask me after the surgery. Sarah. He waited until I looked at him. The approach you're planning? Even I have doubts. Because it's too risky. Because no one else would attempt it. The margin for error is microscopic. I dried my hands, remembering every late-night study session, every extra shift, every moment that led to this. Good thing I'm not just anyone. The OR team was waiting. Every person there knew this was a career-defining moment. Success would cement my reputation. Failure would haunt me forever. Blood products ready, I asked. 6 units typed and crossed. Imaging. Real-time vascular mapping standing by. Monitoring. All systems calibrated. I took a deep breath, looking at the unconscious form of my mother. The woman who had watched silently as my dreams were sacrificed. who had written a letter explaining her weakness instead of defending her daughter. Nathan appeared at my shoulder. "Last chance to modify the approach." "No," I said, "we do it my way, the impossible way, the way no one else would dare try." Through the observation window I could see Paige and Dad watching. Wren stood with them, her presence a reminder of everything that had brought me here. A nurse started the surgical countdown. "Time check, 7 a.m, beginning procedure." I picked up the scalpel, its weight familiar and comforting. One slip, one tremor, one moment of hesitation, and my mother would die under my hands. "Ready?" Nathan asked. I thought of the letter in my pocket, of Dad's dismissal, of Paige's wedding, of every moment I'd been told this was too much for a girl. "Dr. Newton," the nurse prompted, "are we proceeding?" I looked at my steady hands, at the tools I'd mastered despite every obstacle, at the team waiting for my command. "Let's see," I said, making the first precise incision. "If I'm really too much for a girl, the surgery that would either save my mother or prove them right was officially underway. And for the first time since I'd walked out of that dinner 10 years ago, I felt completely, absolutely certain. This wasn't about revenge anymore. This was about being exactly who I was meant to be, too much, too ambitious, too female, too perfect for them to handle. And I was just getting started. "Suction," I commanded, my eyes fixed on the microscopic vessels beneath my hands. 6 hours in, and every movement had to be perfect. 1 millimeter too far in any direction would mean death. The memory of Dad throwing away my toy stethoscope flashed through my mind. "Girls play with dolls, Sarah." "BP dropping," a nurse called out. "I see it," I replied, my hands steady. This was the critical moment, the one other surgeons had deemed impossible. Nathan stood ready. "Want me to take over?" "No." My voice was steel. "This is my procedure." Another memory, Mum catching me reading medical journals at 13. "Wouldn't you rather look at fashion magazines, dear?" "Pressure's still dropping," the nurse warned. I could feel the tension in the room. Everyone knew this was the moment where most surgeons would back off, close up, admit defeat. I wasn't most surgeons. "Additional blood products," I ordered, "and get me the micro forceps." "Sarah," Nathan cautioned, "if we lose this vessel—" "We won't." My hands moved with practiced precision, finding pathways where others saw only obstacles. Every late-night study session, every extra rotation, every moment of proving myself led to this. "Pressure stabilizing," the nurse announced. I allowed myself a small breath. "Microscope adjustment, 2 degrees left." The memory of Paige's wedding surfaced, me watching from a distance as my education fund paid for ice sculptures and dove releases. "Starting the final anastomosis," I announced. This was the part that had made other surgeons balk. The connection had to be perfect, had to hold against impossible odds, just like me. "Jesus," Nathan whispered as he watched my hands work. I've never seen anything like this." "That's because no one else would try it," I replied, completing the final suture. "Numbers?" "Pressure normal, perfusion improving. It's working." I stepped back, allowing myself to really look at what I'd accomplished. "Close her up. Standard protocol." Nathan's eyes were wide behind his surgical mask. "Sarah, what you just did, that's going to rewrite textbooks." "I know," I said simply, because I did know. I'd just done what every other surgeon had declared impossible, what my father had said was too much for a girl. 3 hours later, I walked into the waiting room. Dad jumped up, Paige clutching his arm. "She's alive," I said before they could speak. "The surgery was successful. She'll need extensive rehabilitation, but she'll recover." Dad's legs gave out. Paige started crying. Through the window, I could see the sun setting. We'd been in surgery for over 12 hours. "Can we see her?" Paige asked. "In recovery, 1 at a time, 10 minutes each." Dad stepped forward. "Sarah, thank you. I was wrong. About everything. I'm so—" "Stop." My voice was quiet but firm. I didn't do this for you. I did it because I'm the best at what I do, because this is exactly who I was meant to be, with or without your approval. But surely now, for Thanksgiving at least. No. I pulled off my surgical cap. I'm not coming to Thanksgiving. Not now, not ever. I'm not your daughter anymore. I'm the surgeon who saved your wife, that's all. Sarah, please, Paige tried to hug me. I stepped back. Don't. This doesn't fix anything. It just proves I was right all along. I turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Mum's jewellery collection? Tell her to expect a call from my lawyer. That scholarship fund for female medical students isn't going to start itself. Nathan was waiting outside. That was kind of harsh. That was kind of perfect, I corrected. Now I need a drink. We headed to the hospital bar where Wren was waiting. She raised her glass. To the impossible surgeon. To being too much, I replied, clinking glasses. Your father looked destroyed, Nathan observed. Good. I took a sip. Let him feel what I felt when he destroyed my dreams. Except I'm giving him something he doesn't deserve. His wife back. And the scholarship fund, I smiled. That's not revenge, that's justice, for every girl told she's reaching too high, dreaming too big. My phone buzzed, messages flooding in as word of the surgery spread through medical circles. Tomorrow there would be papers to write, techniques to document, a whole new chapter of surgical history to record. But tonight I just sat there, feeling the weight of a decade's worth of anger finally begin to lift. I hadn't just saved my mother, I'd saved myself. From doubt, from their limitations, from the small life they'd tried to force me into. You know what the best part is, I told Wren and Nathan. Tomorrow, some little girl somewhere will read about this surgery, and when someone tells her she's reaching too high, she'll know better, because I proved them wrong. I raised my glass again. To being exactly what they feared, successful, unstoppable, and absolutely, perfectly too much. Dr. Newton! Reporters swarmed as I left the hospital. Can you comment on the revolutionary surgery? Is it true no other surgeon would attempt it? How does it feel to save your own mother? I pushed through them, Wren and Nathan flanking me like bodyguards. The story had exploded overnight. Local girl returns home to perform impossible surgery, saves mother who denied her dreams. Sarah, Dad's voice cut through the chaos. He stood by my rental car, holding a familiar wooden box. I'm leaving, I said flatly. I know. He held out the box. But you should have this first. Inside was my childhood plaque, the one they'd never acknowledged. Awards, certificates, newspaper clippings about my achievements. He'd kept them all. I was wrong, he said quietly, and I was afraid, because you were everything I could never be, brave enough to defy expectations. Keep it, I replied, closing the box. I don't need reminders of what you didn't support. Please, he tried again. Your mother's asking for you. My patient is in recovery. She'll be monitored by the resident team. That's not what I... Yes, it is. I met his eyes. You wanted the best surgeon. You got her. That's all this is. Paige appeared, holding papers. Here, the first payment, for your education fund. I glanced at the cheque, then handed it back. Don't bother. Mom's jewellery collection will cover it. Consider your debt paid. It's not about the money anymore, is it? She asked softly. It never was. Nathan touched my arm. Our flight's in an hour. Sarah, wait. Dad's voice cracked. You were right back then. It was too much, but not for you, for me, for all of us. We couldn't handle seeing you become more than our small minds could imagine. I turned back one last time. You know what's funny? I used to dream about this moment, about proving you wrong so completely you'd have to admit it. But now? I smiled, and it felt like freedom. Now I don't care what you think at all. In the airport terminal, Nathan grabbed my hand. You okay? Better than okay. I pulled out my phone, showing him the emails flooding in. Other hospitals, research facilities, medical journals, all wanting to know more about the surgery, the technique, the surgeon who dared the impossible. They're calling you a pioneer, Wren said, scrolling through news articles. They're calling me a miracle worker, I corrected. But really, I'm just a girl who was told no too many times. My phone buzzed, a message from Ray, my hospital administrator. Board meeting tomorrow, time to discuss that department head position you deserve. See? I showed them the message. Being too much pays off. Speaking of paying off, Wren said, I've already drafted the Scholarship Foundation paperwork. The Newton Fund for Women in Medicine has a nice ring to it. I shook my head. No, call it the Too Much Foundation, for girls who dream beyond expectations. The flight began boarding. As we stood up, Nathan hesitated. You really never going back? Never needed to. I shouldered my bag. Everything I am, I built without them. Everything I'll become, I'll build the same way. Through the terminal window, I could see reporters still gathering, hungry for the story of the prodigal daughter's triumphant return. But they had it wrong. This wasn't about coming home. This was about finally, completely leaving it behind. You know what the hardest cut is in surgery? I asked as we walked to the gate. It's not the first one. It's the last one, the one that either heals everything or ruins it all. And yesterday? Wren asked. Which was that? Neither. I handed over my boarding pass. It was just me being exactly who I was meant to be, no more, no less. As the plane took off, I thought about that dinner 10 years ago, about the untouched wine glass and the shattered dreams, about how they thought they were ending my story, when really they were just giving me the first line of a better one. My phone buzzed one last time, a message from Paige. Mum's awake. She's asking if you'll take more patients like her. I told her you're already booked saving other people's daughters. I smiled, turned off my phone and looked out at the clouds. Let them wonder, let them worry, let them finally understand what they lost when they tried to make me smaller. Because I wasn't just a surgeon now. I was living proof that sometimes being too much is exactly enough. And somewhere out there, another girl was reading about my surgery, dreaming of scalpels and science, refusing to be less than everything she could become. That was the real victory. That was the perfect revenge. That was the truth they could never diminish again. I was too much, and I was just getting started.